question short and go to the next round. So, Mr. Case, you so diligently stay behind. We'd love to give you your next 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Dr. Peacock. I'm going back to your testimony, and basically what your testimony offers is a view of minimal environmental impact based on your monitoring of tests conducted in 2021 and 2022. Were those Mr. Barron's company's tests?
No. The second test was the metals company test. We did a small component of that. We provided a new sediment sensor that we designed for monitoring. The first test was for a company called Global Sea Mineral Resources, also independently monitored by a European consortium called the Mining Impacts Consortium.
So these were private companies wanting to conduct deep sea mining. You were monitoring their tests, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And according to your testimony, these were, quote unquote, I'm trying to find your quote, they were small-scale, short-term pilot tests. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so these were not large-scale, longitudinal, real deep-sea mining tests. They were not tests of that. They were kind of like, hey, get in there, do a small pick, find out what the sediment is, et cetera.
I would agree with that with one exception, which is the scale of the vehicles themselves was not dissimilar from what a commercial scale would be. They're about a third the size of a commercial scale vehicle.
Okay, and were there a variety of approaches to deep sea mining tested, or were they focused on the pluck that has been testified to one of the measures? So in other words, did they, for example, do the large-scale clamshell drop from the top of the ocean to the bottom, impacting the bottom, digging up deeper than a couple of inches? Did they do a dredge across the bottom? Did they do any of that stuff, or was it just like one approach?
So both companies used the same technology, which is this hydrodynamic suction technique. I'm not really aware of any commercial companies using sort of that sort of dredging type approaches from the top of the ocean.
All right, so you just did the suck thing, the hydrodynamic, go down there with a suction thing and suck it up.
Yeah, that's one of the sort of main technologies that people are looking at.
But it's possible that there's other ways of getting stuff from the ocean floor, correct?
Yes.
You didn't test for that. Okay, and similarly, you only tested for sediment. You didn't test for other marine impacts, correct?
My group led the sediment studies, but there's an entire European consortium of 23 institutions that did all the biological studies.
Okay, and that, I want to get to that because I'm reading your testimony further, and you have a couple of specific recommendations in here. First of all, you say that you need to be very careful about where you conduct these extraction activities. You recommend a patchwork of protected areas. You suggest large areas off limits to mining, protecting some smaller areas. You definitely recommend a regulatory framework. You recommend dedicated programs to determine to detect impacts, monitoring. You talk a lot about the International Seabed Authority. In fact, you're a consultant, or you're actually a member of the International Seabed Authority indirectly, right?
I'm on the expert committee for thresholds for the ISA,
All right.
yes.
So you're not sitting here as an expert recommending that we do whatever we want on the seabed. You're recommending a specific regulatory framework for protecting the environment, which is similar to what the ISA is doing, right?
Yeah, I advocate for a step-by-step approach at increasing scales of operation and with robust guidelines, regulations to oversee that process.
Okay, and do you have a view about whether the executive order offers such a regulatory framework?
I don't have a view on that. I don't have familiarity with it.
Mr. Curry, and I'm going to do this rhetorically, and you can answer within 30 seconds. Fundamentally, the executive order ignores the International Seabed Authority, throws it out there. We're going to go this alone, right? China is a member of the International Seabed Authority, and China is obviously trying to manipulate it to its ends, but it's at least doing it within a framework of the International Seabed Authority Law of the Sea. We've decided not to do that. Is it correct that the actions by this president would incentivize China to go it alone with no environmental regulation whatsoever?
That is one possible outcome. The other possible outcome is that China positions itself as the leader of multilateralism, and it goes that way. China is very smart about the way they look things forward. They clearly are very, very invested in pursuing deep sea mining, but not in any particular rush.
Okay.
So I think you'd find China coming back with a very measured response.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think the gentleman from Hawaii, the gentleman from